years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of.
How about I don't trust anything about his lawsuit. People need to understand the fact that, okay, maybe he is guilty of doing the little nasty stuff that they say he doing, but with the child pornography and all of that stuff, I don't really think that man did it. I think that they really set him up for somebody that's in the high space want to teach him a lesson.
In a moment, my panel will dissect and debate all of the latest developments, shocking developments. But first, I'm joined by attorney Tony Busby, who you just heard speaking there. Mr. Busby, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I want to read you a statement overnight from Janice Smalls-Combs, who is Diddy's mother. It came by her lawyer, Natalie Figures. It says this: I come to you today as a mother that is devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations made against my son, Sean Combs. It is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies. To bear witness what seems to be like a public lynching of my son before he's had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain too unbearable.
I can kind of believe that because I want people to understand you got to grasp this concept. If people want to say that you understood if you went to this party, certain things was going to happen. If you continue to go to this party, after the first time it only teach you one time not to do it no more. And most of these stars was already established, so you can't say you needed him to boost your career for anything. You went because you wanted to.
To put into words, just first of all, your reaction to that statement from his mother.
That's exactly what I would expect a mother to say. You know, these allegations are shocking. These allegations are egregious. And that's why they have court systems, because we will ferret this out in the court system. We intend to prove our cases. Obviously, we're not going to prove our cases at a press conference. And, you know, with all due respect to her, you know, I've talked to these victims and I believe them. So that's exactly what I would expect his mother to say.
Why ain't nobody talking about the victim that you was supposed to believe? But then they showed what a girl tried to get her ex-boyfriend to lie, and she tried to get the bodyguard to lie. So why is that not being brought out? Like, why is his attorneys not bringing this up in conversation?
Your hotline took 12,000 calls in 24 hours, including many new allegations involving minors. At the moment, there's no class action. Each case you take will be represented individually, but just...
Now they keep talking about minors, but they didn't show any proof of that. Just like they ain't showing no proof of nothing. The only proof that they saw or showed was the fact that he did jump on the girl in the hotel room. And yes, that's wrong. But you know, couples fight and everybody go through their stuff, and I'm not excusing them to make it right, but that's life.
The fact you've got 120 already that you're repping, and you're getting so many calls, what does that tell you about the scale of all this?
Well, you know, I know that's reported 12,000 calls in a 24-hour period, and of course that's true. I want people to know that you know, obviously that's not 12,000 people claiming to be victimized by Sean Combs. That's, you know, a large portion of those people calling are calling with, you know, words of support. Others were prank calls.
Why ain't nobody thinking about this? Lawyer keep throwing up, he got these high-profile people. He got this person under their level and all of that stuff. But how do you not know that it's just like an intimidation tactic? And he just getting y'all all to tell on each other, because if they really had something, they didn't need to talk to nobody. They would just haul him off the jail. Think about it.
And crank calls, as you might imagine, in this kind of situation. What's most interesting to me and what's most helpful are people that call that have bits of information, bits of evidence, video, perhaps pictures. And then, of course, we're particularly interested in people that had interaction with Mr. Combs and what they say happened to them and victims. But, you know, I was trying to get my head around the fact that, you know, we're talking about...
At the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and share this with his lawyers and everybody. Again, I'm still trying to get on his legal team because somebody needs to talk about that. Like, at the end of the day, he didn't force anybody to come to the parties. If you came to the parties, it's because you wanted to. After you knew what happened, whether it happened to you 1 or 2 times, after you knew what was happening, you shouldn't have never went.
Thousands of people calling and hundreds of alleged victims. And how could that possibly be the case? But When you put that in context and you think about conduct that allegedly occurred over a 25-year period in multiple different venues, parties every week, sometimes multiple times a week, and the same MO each time has been alleged. Typically, it involved.
Which makes it even worse. Which should be that you don't even have a case. Because these people came to that party on their free will. Nobody hold them at gunpoint, made them leave their house. They came to that party and they knew what that party entailed. So if they did not want to deal with it, they just shouldn't have came. I mean, everybody should be guilty.
Some sort of illicit substance placed in someone's drink, and then that individual is coerced.
They're not coerced.
And that's kind of the overall.
That's a false narrative. They're not coerced. They was coerced the first time it happened. Yes, you can understand that. The first time it happens to you. But if you freely come to this party that you already know what's going down when you come there, you could choose to stay home. Or you can choose not to have that future that whatever was said that you was going to have. If you stand by something, then you don't have to go through it. Nobody forced nobody to come to his house.
Arching theme here. And so a lot of these calls, on first glance, you say, my goodness, that's just impossible that many people would call with information who have been victimized. But when you look at it in the context of a long period of time in a particular modus operandi, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it's numbers are staggering.
And then again, it don't make a lot of sense because you said in your conversation back to him that it was 50-50. So it was 50 adults, 50 children. Now, trust and believe you me. If the kids was involved and he really did something with some kids, then F him. Let him go down to where he need to go on down at. But I do feel like he pissed somebody off that was high in power, and you just not want to tell on him and you want to teach him a lesson.
You've also said that there are other big names that will come out in relation to these charges. He says the day will come, you said this, when you start naming names. When will that day be, and how big are these names that we're talking about?
People are very interested in that, of course. That comment has been repeated back to me, as you might imagine, many times. And people are, waiting with bated breath, hoping that, I'm going to name these big celebrity names. But I can tell you this. I look at it in this context. If you attended one of these events, and we're talking about, we've heard about the white party and the freak-offs and the after parties, but there's also, impromptu parties at studios, after parties from concerts, album release parties, hotel parties. I mean, the list goes on and on. But in my view, if you attended those and you saw or knew that somebody was being given drugs, that their drinks were being drugged, and you...
Let's be clear. You cannot make that make sense and say it in a way that you gotta act like you can't say everybody that participated in the parties that they did not hear about it. Because I don't give a care. If it happens to you once, somebody told somebody and they told somebody else. So eventually it got out to everybody. So that means that everybody that attended them parties, you need to be indicting.
Sat by and either participated in some of this activity or encouraged this activity or allowed it to go on and helped cover it up, or were in the room while it was happening and said nothing and did not intervene, and perhaps attended more of these parties knowing that this type of conduct was going to occur. It's my view that may not.
You know that I knew this type of thing was going to occur because the last thing I heard you say was the consequences for these people attending the party was either you drink the drink or you get out. Eventually, everybody heard what the drink had or was laced with. So if y'all gonna say that he did that and you have no proof, but y'all didn't present no proof, y'all just trying to do scare tactics so y'all can get people to tell on each other.
Be the criminal justice system's view, but it's certainly my view that you're complicit. And we intend to name people in these lawsuits. We're not going to do it in interviews. We're not going to do it, without doing our due diligence, because obviously, these types of allegations are very hurtful to people if they're not true, and very hurtful, frankly, if they...
But how would it be allegations if it's not true? Like, unless you're going to tell me that he sent a limo or a person that forced somebody to come to each and every one of his parties. When people showed up, they showed up because they wanted to. So how's that something he forced them into? And can you even give accountable for he was even the person that provided the drugs? See, this is why I told you, Puffy. You need to get out of ghetto girl and hire me, because I definitely could do way more than what your lawyers are doing.
If they're not true, and very hurtful, frankly, if they are true. But if they're true, you shouldn't have been in the room and you shouldn't have been participating. So I anticipate that we're going to start filing lawsuits, and it may not be big names at first, but we have a long list of names, and you might imagine in situations like this.
Here's how businesses succeed with Semrush.
Semrush helped us crush our marketing goals here at UHS. We've been getting more
situations like this.
That's how you know they ain't got nothing. Because if they really had something, they wouldn't be telling you it's going to start off with small people.
We want to do as much due diligence as humanly possible before we file that case, because in the United States, in almost every state, public filings are in fact public. And, when you name somebody in a lawsuit, the press is going to pick it up, and we're aware of that. So we're going to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's, and I expect.
Naming somebody is simply hearsay. That's not nothing that you can go off on and act like it's actual facts. The law's not about the truth, it's about what you can prove, sweetie. So if you can't do that, then Puff Daddy, what is your team doing? Tag me in.
That there will be some people named in these lawsuits that will raise some eyebrows.
Right. I mean, how big an eyebrow raise are we talking about? Because you've been hearing a lot of names, presumably, in the process of all these calls coming in. And you're a pretty smart lawyer, so you can probably work out the wheat from the chaff in terms of legitimate.
How smart are they really? Most of this stuff is just circumstantial. It's hearsay. Hearsay is by word of mouth from this person and that person. If you cannot present me with the burden of proof, then there's nothing that you can stick me to. If you're taking this to trial, the only thing you need is to have a jury to have the reasonable doubt. They have every reason to have a reasonable doubt. I can give you so many entities, but I can tell you, you just should not be here and not even stuck in the jail cell, because that's crazy. Why are you still there for what?
Plausible claims here in terms of victims. Are we talking about names as big as Diddy potentially?
Obviously. People aren't even thinking about the fact that should have been discredited, because if you was a flight risk, or you was going to flee the country or do whatever the hell you were going to do, you would have did that a long time ago. You did not have to turn yourself in, and you did not have to comply to everything that they wanted you to comply to. If you was going to commit suicide